Microphone on. Hey everybody, Derek here for the weekly news recap for the 24th to the 30th of October 2022. Let me just turn on our captions real quick. This one. Okay, so we'll get into it. Anyway, sorry we're starting a little bit late. I'll address that in a minute. Anyway, so updates for this week. CD Projekt Red have announced that they are planning to remake the original The Witcher game. As one of the few remakes that have come out or have been announced or in production that could really do with a remake, because the original Witcher, while I like it, it is extremely janky and it's kind of difficult to get it to even run on PC at the moment. So if anything could do with a remake, that's definitely one of them. But it is planning to be made from the ground up, rebuilt from the ground up in Unreal Engine 5, and is currently in early stages of development over at Fool's Theory, which is a third-party developer, but it is helmed by a bunch of Witcher veterans. Earlier in the month, CD Projekt Red had a earnings call where they announced where the three new pillars for CD Projekt Red going forward, which is going to be Cyberpunk 2077, The Witcher, and some new IP that may or may not be Eldritch horror stuff, which is what I think it is. But that has in no way confirmed. That is pure speculation on my part. But part of that earnings call was they announced code names for a bunch of products, and one of them was Canis Majoris for The Witcher, and it turns out Canis Majoris is in fact The Witcher remake project. So that's what that is. Yeah, I mean, this is good news. It's going to be quite a while before we see anything from it, just because they're only really starting production now. Like, pre-production is probably done at this point, and now they're entering like full, all right, let's make this thing. They are going to be using the same engine that they'll be using for the new Witcher trilogy as well, so it should play fairly similar to the next series of Witcher games. So that, like, it's interesting. And again, we don't know a whole lot about it, but it's one. Pre-order start next week for the game. It's in pre-production. Yeah, let's have another Cyberpunk 2077 situation happening. How's it going, Automakai? Anyway, I guess we'll see what happens with that. But it's going to be quite a while off. No mention of platforms or anything like that, but I imagine anything that The Witcher 3 is on right now, you'll probably see it. I'm curious now if by the time it comes out, will there be a console refresh? Will there be a PS5 Slim or an Xbox Series Z, whatever the fuck they call it? Anyway, moving on. The Callisto Protocol has been cancelled in Japan. This is voluntarily by the developer themselves. They have decided to cancel the Japanese version, and it is because they were unable to earn a CERO rating. CERO is equivalent to the ESRB in North America, or PEGI in Europe, PEGI. I have no idea what either of those mean. I just know PEGI 15 or mature or something like that. CERO is Japan's version of it, and they were unable to get an 18s rating for CERO, or whatever their equivalent is. Whatever violent content is in Callisto Protocol, and what we've seen from some of the gameplay and some of the trailers, it's pretty fucking gory. Japan were like, nope. Japan like, yeah, adults only if you want, which is CERO Z, and it's pretty much a death sentence for video games, because we are all children apparently and can't handle spooky, gross stuff and boobs. So yeah, no Japanese version for the Callisto Protocol. Of course, you could just import it if you're interested in it, but it's kind of interesting that it's so gory. It wasn't refused classification exactly, it was just they weren't able to get it under 18s. So CERO Z is 18 plus, which is usually adults only in the ESRB. I don't even think PEGI has one. PEGI 18 is as high as it goes. But even that's not considered, like, I don't know, pornographic games or whatever don't even fall into that classification. So yeah, it's so bad, it's considered as bad as a penis. Extremely gory. Anyway, free Epic Games this week. So first one is Saturnalia, which is a brand new game, only came out this week, and is launching free on the Epic Games Store, so you might go ahead and grab that. Saturnalia is a procedurally generated dungeon escape room kind of thing. You have a collection of characters who are dropped into this sort of otherworldly, painterly, take on me looking place. You are trying to escape. There are a bunch of puzzles you need to solve. Puzzles are somewhat procedurally generated, somewhat static. And you are being hunted down by this strange goat creature, and he can capture one of your characters and imprison them somewhere, and you can opt to then go rescue that character, and maybe they have a key that you need on their body or something like that, or you can say, you know what, fuck that guy. I'm just gonna keep going. He's on his own now. He knew what he got into. Anyway, that's Saturnalia. And then Warhammer 40,000 or Warhammer 40k Mechanicus, I think, is an RTS. Take control of the most technology advanced army in the Imperium, the Adeptus Mechanicus. Your every decision will weigh heavily on the outcome of the mission in this turn-based tactical game. Yes, so it is. Well, okay. It's not an or TS. It's a TS. Turn-based. TTS. TBTS? What do you call those? Just strategy game? Show me some screenshots. Is it more of an XCOM? It's more of an XCOM thing, actually, rather than a turn-based game. Anyway, Warhammer 40k, I'm sure you already know if you're interested in that or not. Moving on, new releases for this week. So first up is the long-awaited, how many years has it been? 10, 12 years, something like that? Bayonetta 3. We'll ignore the whole voice actor controversy scandal for a second, and we'll move on to that later on. But anyway, Bayonetta 3 finally released. I still haven't played. Boycott. I will not be boycotting. Well, it's not that I mean, I'll be boycotting in the sense that I won't be buying it right away because I haven't played the second one. So there's that. Anyway, Bayonetta 3, long in development hell, has started and stopped development multiple times. Only really started development once Scalebound was cancelled by Microsoft. So they've repurposed and reused a lot of the tech from Scalebound. There's the giant monsters or giant demons that Bayonetta can control and stuff like that. That's all lifted pretty much directly from Scalebound. So it'll be an interesting one when I get around to playing it in like 3 years. Probably. Anyway, if you're interested, it's out now on Nintendo Switch. I was meant to be in full screen, but anyway. Then we have Signalis, which I was meant to play this week, but I didn't. Again, I'll address that later on. But we are going to play this tomorrow, on Monday. So if you're watching this on YouTube, it's probably already happened, to be fair. Anyway, Signalis is a throwback to the older survival horror games. So think the original Resident Evil, Silent Hill, that kind of thing. Parasite Eve 1-ish, kind of. It's got the kind of PS1 graphic aesthetic, but the PS1 wouldn't. The PS1 wishes it could look this good. Yeah, it's suitably creepy. It's got some philosophical shit happening, and yeah, I'm looking forward to playing it. Then we have Saturnalia, which I just showed you. It's free on the Epic Games Store. It's also available anywhere else you might want to play it: PlayStation, Xbox, Steam, maybe. I'm not sure if it's on Steam. It might be exclusive to the Epic Games. And I don't think it's on Switch, but it might be. I don't know. You'll have to check. Actually, it says in the description. Epic Games Store, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox, no Switch. Yeah, not on Steam. Exclusive to Epic Games. Okay. And then, not exactly a new game, but a pretty beefy update for Resident Evil Village, or Resident Evil 8, was just released this week. So it's added third-person mode, because it seems that Resident Evil has decided, you know what? First person was cool and all, we had our fun, but people really like the Resident Evil 2 and 3 remakes, so let's go back to over-the-shoulder style stuff. So I have a feeling this is pretty much where the Resident Evil series is gonna go back to. It's gonna go back to over-the-shoulder stuff. So there is the third-person view mode for the main game. There's also the Shadows of Rose DLC, which is story content for post-game Resident Evil stuff. And then there's also a bunch of additions made to the Mercenaries mode, so you can now play as Heisenberg, Lady D. You can be 10 foot tall and just smash people around the place. Although technically she's not 10 foot tall in the Mercenaries mode because they felt the gameplay was really weird when you were 10 feet tall. So she's actually like 9 foot something in the Mercenaries mode. For whatever reason, they decided to go with that. I don't know why, but here we are. It's kind of weird in this video, in this screen grab, they have Heisenberg and Lady D at the same height. that's a little misleading. Anyway, those are new releases for this week. However, it is now time to talk about the worst part of video games, the video game industry. So this is from Kotaku. Bayonetta's original voice actor disputes claims, says she only asked for a fair living wage. So this controversy, if you want to call it that, oh boy, says Automakai. It's continuing to continue, unfortunately. So at the outset, Helen Taylor said that she was offered $4,000 for her role as Bayonetta in Bayonetta 3 for the entirety of the game. So that's all voice work, $4,000, which she considered to be insultingly low. Bloomberg's Jason Schreier later came back to clarify that she was actually offered $4,000 for multiple recording sessions, which would have amounted to something like $15,000, which, you know, considerably a bit more than $4,000. And then some other people were suggesting that it was she wanted what do they call them, residuals from the game, so that she would get a cut of sales of the game, which is what like big Hollywood actors kind of get instead. Which they declined, and so on and so forth. So she has decided to clarify a couple of things, and yeah, she's been a little misleading, guys. Try to act surprised. As I posted, explained that their first offer was too low. That offer was $10,000 total. So she was originally offered $10,000 to reprise her role as Bayonetta. She goes to like compare this to the $1 million $450 million citation needed on where Bayonetta the series made that much money. 450 million yen, maybe. But whatever. She then wrote to Hideki Kamiya asking, hey, you know, am I not worth a bit more than that? You know, I'm the voice of Bayonetta. People don't know me. The fans want me to replay her, and so on and so forth. He was like, yeah, cool. He replied saying how much he valued my contribution to the game and how much the fans wanted to reprise, so he added another $5,000. Although she says $50,000 there, but it was later clarified that she meant 5. So $15,000 total for what would have amounted to about a week's worth of recording sessions. So that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money for 40 hours of work. Debatable if it even was 40 hours of work, but whatever. She declined to voice the game. She declined to voice the game after being offered $15,000. She later mentions that she was offered $3,000 for the original Bayonetta. That's how much she was paid for the very first game. She does dispute some of the other things, like she wanted a 6-figure sum and she wanted residuals and stuff like that. She said, no, I wasn't asking for that. I just wanted a living wage. $15,000 for like 40 hours of work is a little bit more than a living wage. Just okay. I mean, you could probably, argue voice actors don't have a 9-to-5 kind of thing, and I suppose yada yada yada, but still. Anyway, it's still misleading what she actually said. They then offered me a flat fee to voice some lines for $4,000. This is largely considered to be a cameo appearance rather than like for the full game. So she was offered $4,000 for a cameo appearance, which is like, that's a bit much. Anyway, and she declined because she felt it was insultingly low. So, yeah. There's one thing to be like, I want a living wage, and then there's a one thing to be like, I want too much money for this role. I want to be Hollywood actor level, give me a percentage of the cut and give me like far too much money. Like, it's certainly harder to be, what is the word? Empathetic towards her for this, because she's asking for a lot of money for not a lot of work. Now, you can't say from that kind of standpoint, like creativity, the work that goes into like training your voice, the work that goes into having a recognizable voice, and so on. It's difficult to put a price tag on that. I'm not going to suggest that $15,000, although I did just say that, but I'm not going to suggest that $15,000 is too much. Voice actors should be paid more. Developers should be paid more. Game directors should be paid more, and so on and so forth. The profits shouldn't all be going up to like the 5 people who sit on the board, and so on. I absolutely agree with that. What I don't agree with is misleading your fan base to get them to pile onto the game and have that game be boycotted and not do well, and so on. That's not what I agree with. That's throwing the developers who had nothing to do with this under the bus. You know, the people who are just working there and are, you know, the sculptor who's trying to like perfect Bayonetta's ass or something like that, or the camera worker guy who's getting the swoop through the legs shots and stuff like that. Whatever ridiculous horny shit Kamiya wanted to put into the game. Like those guys, they should be paid more for having to put up with this guy's kink. Anyway, but we're not done. We're not done with the Helena Taylor thing, because then it came back later that she was like, hey, you wanted us to boycott this stuff, and people were like, yeah, you misled us, so we're not going to do it anymore, yada, yada, yada. But some people were still on board with it, and they were like, hey, what charities do you want us to donate to? Because she did originally suggest that if you're going to boycott the game, whatever money you were going to spend on getting the game itself, put it into a charity instead, which obviously helped her position. However, part of one of the charities that she urged people to do, she's now urging them to take the money that they would have spent on the Switch game's release and give it to charitable causes instead, including the Kentucky-based non-profit whose sole mission is to blanket cities and towns with giant signs aimed at guilting and shaming would-be parents. So they're very much an anti-abortion charity group. Yeah. That's not very Bayonetta of you, Alan Taylor. Bayonetta would very much be pro-choice, I feel. You know, women's empowerment, and also she hates kids. So it very much would be pro-abortion, pro-choice. Not good. Anyway, donate your boycott money. There are many small local charities that need your help. Taylor suggested traditional charities like food banks, homeless shelters, and stuff like that. Then she also promoted 14 organizations she had directly contributed to in the past. They range from a student pizza fund for the London Academy of Music and Dramatic Arts, which is probably where she attended. I haven't looked it up, I would assume. Several pet welfare groups, and then an anti-abortion group, Billboards for Life, who put up billboards like these across the UK. You know, struggling to get some sympathy there for you, Helena, but it's all fucking gone now. So, fuck her. Okay, moving on. This is a kind of very short snippet, but last week, maybe the week before, we had a talk about how the people behind Disco Elysium, the kind of main figureheads that were responsible for the story, for the world building, for the writing, you know, all the things that Disco Elysium is really, really well known for, were dismissed from the company by the suits. And this was kept under wraps for a really long time. People were trying to get interviews with them to talk about the game when the final cut came out and stuff like that, and they were like, they're busy. And that they weren't busy. They actually weren't working there anymore. It's alleged that they were forced out rather than quit voluntarily. We don't know whether that's true or not, but it has emerged that the Disco Elysium lead has filed a lawsuit against the developer Zaum, who were the development team behind the game in the first place. We don't know a whole lot about what's involved in the lawsuit because it is, what do they call it? Sealed or something like that. All we really know about it is that they have filed an application to obtain information and review documents, which is discovery. You know, it's like, we want to see these documents so we can put like evidence of this lawsuit. What it is suggested is that this lawsuit is about, one, getting the rights back to Disco Elysium from Zaum, and the other is for like figuring out why, you know, what is their legal reason for dismissing all these people from the company. So that's what is suggested, what the lawsuit is, but we don't actually know. So this little news snippet is mostly conjecture. The only thing we do know for definite is that they have filed suit. We just don't know what specifically it is about, but it stands to reason that it is either about the unfair dismissal of those figureheads or trying to get the IP of the Disco Elysium itself back. But we don't know. It could be anything. Rocksteady co-founders are leaving the studio. So Sefton Hill and Jamie Walker, previous founders of Rocksteady Studios, are set to leave the studio right before their next game comes out. Not a good look. You guys trying to get out of here before something bad happens? Are you about to unleash a really bad game? Suicide Squad killed the Justice League. I said it right. Wow, I said it right first time. That's a first for me. Anyway, so they're going to start a new adventure in gaming, yada, 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 whatever. We don't know what they're going to figure out. And then there was a puff piece about, they were great to work for, and they set us up to be great, and the Arkham series was wonderful to work on, blah, 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 blah. It's kind of weird for studio figureheads to leave before the game comes out. That only typically happens is if there were problems in the development, if there were clashes with the parent family, Warner Brothers. Maybe they were pushing for certain things in Suicide Squad that Rocksteady didn't want to do, and they stayed on long enough to make sure the project could be finished, and then they left. Potentially, it's arguing that they were planning to leave when the game was going to come out originally, because the game has been delayed a couple of times. So maybe they had plans to leave anyway, and it just so happens the game has been pushed out so many times that it's just conflicted with when they wanted to leave. Or there's a big shit game on the way and they want to get the hell out of there before it hits. We don't know. The last time I remember this happening was when Marvel's Avengers was launched. And some of the people behind Eidos Montreal went, right, I'm out, see ya, before the game came out. So, don't know, this could just be straight up, industry movement. It's a bit weird for the founders to leave. You do typically see, like, creative directors moving on to different projects, or, like, senior developers, senior artist people. Those kind of people are in pretty high demand. They can, certainly shop around for better salaries and stuff like that. So you do definitely see them moving when their work on the project is done. But it is pretty rare for studio founders to step down outside of a merger or outside of an acquisition or something like that. They've been there for how long? They've been working with Warner Brothers for how long? It's just weird. It's weird, and it's also weird for both of them to step down at the same time. So something's up, but we don't know what. Again, more conjecture. Anyway, it is time for the ritual shitting on Activision Blizzard. So Activision Blizzard facing new charges from ABK Workers Alliance over unfair labor practices. So last week we were talking about the new Chief People Officer, Lulu Cheng Meservey, who, after Blizzard Albany won... Yay, Automaka says... We love to shit on Activision Blizzard. Lulu Cheng Meservey made a post at the shitting, not the story. Yeah, I got it. She made a post on the company Slack talking about how they don't want to go through unions. They think collective bargaining is slow and it stops people from getting promoted and stops people from getting raises and stuff like that, which is all very much union busting, anti-union messaging. Very obvious. They're not even trying to be subtle about it. This was after Blizzard Albany won their right to vote for a union. So, it's pretty obvious why she was doing it. She was promoting, like, direct dialogue with our employees, because that's definitely puts the power in the employees' hand, doesn't it? Definitely not in the employers. No, definitely not. Why would they do that? People did point out the irony in saying they wanted... direct communication with employees, only to have that post be locked for comments. So you couldn't reply to this post she made, despite saying that we wanted direct communication with employees. So as a result, CWA announced yesterday it had filed unfair labor practice charges against Activision Blizzard in response to that statement, which argued for a streamlined process. Last week, Meservey sent a company-wide Slack message disparaging the union, making threats to withhold raises and benefit improvements from workers who joined the union, and giving workers an impression that their union affiliation and/or support was under surveillance. All of those are illegal, by the way. And the thing is, they can't bring it against them because they don't have the proof of it. It's just the statements. They need to actually show that they have withheld raises and benefits and so on. So just saying that you're going to do it isn't illegal, but actually doing any of that stuff is... to be clear, a one-way channel where management force feeds workers information does not create dialogue between workers and higher-ups. The only vehicle that can give workers a legally protected seat at the table and a voice on the job is a union. This is from the CWA, the Code Workers Alliance, I think. What does CWA stand for? Communications Workers Alliance. Right, anyway. So yeah, Activision Blizzard being anti-union and getting slapped for it again. These kind of labor board complaints aren't usually enforceable or, enforceable by law or whatever like that. They are usually brought up in union negotiations and stuff like that. We were like, you have this many complaints against you. Why should we believe anything you say and so on? So it's mostly leverage in negotiation tactics. So I wouldn't expect Activision to be hit with a lawsuit over this or anything like that, but you might expect that when they do have to negotiate with Raven QA or Blizzard Albany's QA department and so on, that, things might be less favorable for them. But we're not quite done. We're not quite done with Activision Blizzard. Now, this time it's not about their anti-union thing. It's about them being extremely wasteful and just shitty for game preservation. So, turns out the Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 disc is pretty much empty. All it has on it is a launcher. That's it. The discs included contain only about 72 megabytes of data. Now, for reference, the Call of Duty games are typically 100 plus gigabytes of data. So these are Blu-rays that are effectively empty. That is an incredible waste of resources. Even more plastic in the environment that doesn't need to be there. Go from the boxes, the discs themselves, the shipping of all of those discs around the place, the output from the factory for pressing the discs, and so on and so forth. It is an absolute mess for an environment. I don't know. I'm trying to say it's not very friendly to old Mother Earth. And then the other part of it is, of course, is that what's the point of you giving me a disc where I'm gonna have to download the whole fucking game anyway? You know, I might as well have just bought the digital version in that case. So for game preservation, obviously it's a waste of time because the game's not even on the disc, so who cares? Pointed out in a couple of places in this article, of course, is that people typically buy the disc because either they want to keep it for a game preservation standpoint, like the servers go down, at least I can still play the offline campaign or something like that. But then the other issue is that my internet is so shit, I can't download the game. You know, either I have ridiculous download caps, or it's so fucking slow it'll take me 2 weeks to download the game or something like that. Now we'll throw on the energy costs. You know, everybody knows that energy costs have gone up, and now you want me to keep my console on for 2 hours to download your shitty game that should have been on a disc in the first place? No? Anyway, it's a complete waste of time is what I'm getting at. Why did you bother? Why did you even bother with a hardware version? And of course the reason is that's where they get most of their sales. Unfortunately, is in big box stores. The real problem, of course, is that if they were going to press the entire game, now because Call of Duty is so shit in general as a game, but also because that's my personal opinion anyway. But also the issue is that it is very poorly what's the word? Optimized. To the point that it is routinely like 150 gigs or something like that. Look into your own games on your own console and check your storage and see how many games even hit 100 gigs. Like, it's very few. Very few games get that high. Call of Duty routinely hits that. And if you wanted to put that on a Blu-ray disc, you're talking 3 Blu-ray discs, probably. So, yeah, I get that it would be even worse if they did actually press all of the games onto the disc, because you're like tripling how many discs would have had to be imprinted, and the costs for the plastic of doing that, of shipping them around, and so on. That would absolutely have been worse, but why bother? At least you would have actually used the discs. You know, this is just empty discs, basically. And then the game preservation issue, of course, is that you can't play this. Once the Call of Duty servers go offline, that is a big paperweight. And not even a very good paperweight, because it's very light. To keep down like one sheet of paper. Completely useless. Anyway, we're going to move on, and we'll finish off with something stupid. So, IKEA asks horror game to change so people stop comparing it to IKEA. Maybe IKEA should change so it's not so easily turned into a horror game, but whatever. So this is a Kickstarter game called The Store Is Closed. It is a kind of co-op survival game set in an infinite furniture store that may or may not be IKEA. Debatable. There aren't any like IKEA iconography or anything like that. There's nothing that suggests it's an IKEA other than its considerable resemblance to an IKEA store. But I don't think they have a copyright on grey and like wood paneling and, you know, maze-like structures and stuff like that. I don't know. Anyway, it's reaching the end of its Kickstarter thing, but lawyers at IKEA, I guess, don't have enough work to do. They've decided to send a cease and desist. They're demanding he make changes to his unreleased survival horror game set in IKEA-like furniture store. Now, remember, it is unreleased. He's not making any money out of it. He couldn't possibly be making any money out of it because it hasn't actually been fucking released yet either. IKEA are claiming that the game commits trademark infringement. Trademark infringement is very difficult to prove. Because some press outlets have drawn comparisons between their official brand and the game. Some press outlets have drawn comparisons. Wow, flimsy as shit. Super flimsy, that one. There's no, like, you literally have the IKEA logo in your game. No, this guy says it looks like the IKEA logo. That's what they're going with. Anyway, Crucially, nowhere in any of the game's promotional materials or on its Steam page during its Kickstarter campaign, nowhere has the word IKEA ever been uttered. The closest they've gotten to it is the grey path, which apparently IKEA considers a trademark. Debatable. And the other one is the main screen has the blue and yellow colors of IKEA, and it has Swedish. It just says store in Swedish. Come on, guys. Do you own the Swedish flag? No. Anyway, the problem, of course, is IKEA is a big, huge company. Shit ton of money. Can throw this at them. Can throw lawyers at this forever. And this guy is like some guy on Kickstarter trying to sell a 10 grand game. Or 10 grand funding for Kickstarter. Come on. Obviously, he's going to have to capitulate, but it is flimsy as shit. IKEA's argument hinges that the game infringes on their brand because press sites have made the association rather than the game itself aligning naming IKEA. What? Anyway, the point is, somebody else said it looks like IKEA, so we're suing you. Boycott IKEA. I wish I could, but their furniture is so cheap. Anyway, they then immediately go on to inform Shaw that he has 10 working days of the date of this letter to make all such changes, removing all their claimed indicia. It's probably indicia because it's Latin. Anyway, grey paths and all, the game is not up for sale yet even. So how would they even know that he's removed it since the game isn't even for sale? And like, I love this part. Just from a software development standpoint, I love this part. You can easily make changes to your game to avoid these problems. You're asking me to remake the whole fucking environment. You can easily make changes. Get fucked. Anyway, unfortunately, we have IKEA annual revenues 25.4 billion. Fuck. Versus, 10 grand pound sterling. If you got that, he gets the extra like 1.5 exchange rate or whatever. Shaw says he has no choice but to comply. Of course, he can't fight that. It's too much money. He will never be able to compete against them. While he is seeking legal advice, he's certain he'll have to capitulate given the costs involved in challenging anything. I was going to spend the last week of my Kickstarter preparing an update for all the new alpha testers. However, now I've got to desperately revamp the entire look of the game so I don't get sued. So yeah, pretty shitty practice from IKEA. It's pretty dumb that they think they have any case whatsoever, but of course they have so much money that they don't need to have a case. Justice. That's justice, folks. Why do I make myself angry every Sunday? Anyway, let's put Signalis up. And you can loop. Anyway, that was the news for 24th to the 30th of October, 2022. The Witcher getting a remake is pretty great, honestly, because I've been thinking, like, I want to replay the whole series soon. And then every time it's like, I gotta start with The Witcher 1, though. It's like, I like the game, I do, but holy shit is it hard to get it to actually work on PC. It's so difficult. I don't have an Xbox, and even then I wouldn't play it on Xbox, it would be awful. I'm not even sure the Enhanced Edition is even on Xbox. Anyway, the point is, it's really hard to get the first game working, and even with that, it's not exactly a fun game. Like, I like it. You've seen the games I play on the channel. I like jank shit. But this was pretty jank. Anyway, it's good it's getting a remake. If any game that has been announced for a remake deserved it, it's certainly The Witcher. Callisto Protocol being refused classification, or not refused classification, but being unable to secure a good classification in Japan is pretty funny, honestly. But it's been a while since I've heard a game actually been banned. Not banned. It would probably have to go through such undue censorship. But considering what I've seen in like the gameplay, the trailers, the impression videos and stuff like that, triple X rating. It's called Zero Z in Japan. Is triple X, effectively adults only or whatever. This gore is so bad it is pornographic, more or less, is what they're saying. So it's a pretty good tagline for them. Banned in Japan. I could almost say. They can't though because it wasn't technically banned. They just opted to not release it there. Anyway, new releases. Signalis will be playing on Monday. Saturnalia, I need to see more of the game before I commit to it. I just need to see how much of it is random, because I can take a certain amount of procedural generation, but if too much of it is, it just feels like luck. that you manage to actually complete the game, and I don't like that. I like a certain amount of predictability. That's just me. I'm sure I'm not the only one who feels that way, but I'm sure I'm also, not a majority either. Anyway, industry bullshit, the Helena Taylor thing, like, it always felt weird anyway in the first place. Like, I did want to be on their side. I am on the side of people aren't paid well enough for the work they do, and haven't been since Reagan, basically. Just look at the rate of the cost of living, and then look at the rate of increase in worker pay, and you'll see, because one of them's a flat line, pretty much is a flat line, and one of them is very much not a flat line. So yes, people should definitely be paid better and paid more, but misleading people and then trying to get them to boycott, which would have affected the bottom line of other employees who have also worked on that game and worked very hard on it, that's not okay. That's not good. Activision Blizzard being hit with another labor board complaint. I mean, shock. Is anyone surprised? Disco Elysium, that was incredibly disappointing news when I heard it the first time, that like the people responsible for Disco Elysium being Disco Elysium were just kicked out. Gross. It just felt really awful. So I hope they win. Whatever that lawsuit is, we don't know what it is, but I hope they win. Anyway, so what is going to be happening on the channel this week? So I have to command a full screen to do this. We go in here. We have our mosaic. So this week, streaming, I did very little, and it's because I didn't have a good week last week, and I'm continuing to not have a good weekend, to be honest. Mental health wise, things aren't going great. It's not that things aren't going great. They're going exactly the same. It's just hitting me harder because of seasonal affective disorder, whatever the hell it's called. The days get shorter. Days get shorter, I get sadder. That's the way it seems to work. Anyway, I just wasn't up to streaming much last week. But we did stream a little bit. We streamed Little Nightmares. Thanks, Automakai. Hugs to you as well. We streamed Little Nightmares. And I was planning on doing like a 2-part thing, because I figured it's a short game. It's probably 2 streams. No, it was 1 stream. I remember that game a little too well, I think, so I finished it pretty quickly. How Long to Beat said it should take you about 3.5 hours to 4 hours. I did it in 2 and a bit. So yeah, I kind of knew the game a little bit too well. And then we were planning to do some more Vampire, which I didn't do. We were planning to do some more Plague Tale, which I didn't do. We were planning to do some Resident Evil, which I didn't do. Anyway, moving on. Next week, so as I've mentioned a couple of times, Signalis, we will be playing. We'll be playing Signalis on Monday. Signalis, as I said, is a throwback to the older survival horror titles. You are playing some kind of robot cyborg person who is looking for, I think it's their sister. I'm not entirely sure, but you are called to this abandoned station, and wouldn't you know it, shit's happened. Some shit has happened, and you need to fix it. So that is Signalis. We're going to play that on Monday, on Halloween. It's going to be suitably spooky. Wednesday, we will continue Vampire the Masquerade, Swansong. We are not very far into the game. We're actually still in the opening section, because it turns out that section's kind of long. And also, I was bumbling around not knowing where the fuck I was supposed to go, because the game's a bit glitchy. A little bit glitchy. It does expect you to do... It seems, at least, it expects you to solve puzzles in a particular order, and I was solving them a little out of order. So I think I just glitched it or something. But whatever, I seem to be moving along perfectly fine now, so we'll see how that goes. Vampire the Masquerade Swansong, you are a trio of a vampire in Boston, and some shit's happened to some of the elder vampires, some of the higher ups in the councils and such, and you need to clean it up. You need to clean it up so the plebs, the human mortals, don't figure out vampires actually exist and stuff like that. But we haven't gotten to any of that part, so I'm excited for when it's going to happen soon, I hope. Thursday, Plague Tale Requiem. We have played 2 parts of this already, and I was, again, as I said, planning on playing more of it last week, but we didn't. I'm not going to say too much of where we are at, because the game is still pretty new, and I don't really want to spoil anything, but Amicia and Hugo are back, the duo, trying to avoid rats and trying to avoid medieval shit. They just trying to live in a horrible medieval city, more or less. That's where we're at. I'm not gonna say too much more. Friday is gonna be a little bit exciting, probably just for me. I have a Steam Deck. There he is. I also got the dock for it as well, so I am gonna play a couple of different Steam Deck games on the dock, and this is mostly for me to just see how it's going to work on OBS. The primary reason I got a Steam Deck is so I could stream PC games. I didn't really get it for the Steam Deck itself. I got it for the fact that it's a cheap PC. It's a cheap PC that is primarily for video games, and Valve, are going out of their way to verify that games work and so on the Steam Deck. So that is the plan. I have a couple of different games downloaded. Some of them are verified. Some of them are it'll work, but there might be some shenanigans, and some of them are straight up shit doesn't work on Steam Deck. So I just want to see what that means. And what shenanigans I'll have to go through to make it work through OBS and that kind of thing. So join me for that on Friday. There'll be a couple of different games. We'll play a few of them, and we'll see how it turns out. I'm also going to see if I can get Epic Games working on it as well. Epic Games Launcher. You can. I've seen people do it, so I just want to figure out how it works, more or less. And then on Saturday, we will be back for some more Resident Evil. We are in the same place we were since last week because, again, we didn't stream last week. So we're right at the very end of Jill's game. We're aiming for the good ending. I have all the MO discs. I just need to figure out where the fuck they're actually used because I don't remember. And then we will move into Chris's game as well. I have a feeling that I will probably have a guide propped up beside me for Chris's game because I don't know the game as well as I thought I did. And I'm tired of getting ambushed by hunters, basically. I'm sick of it. Stop ambushing me, you little shits. And then on Sunday, we will be right back around to the weekly game recap. So, weekly news recap even. I might do a weekly game recap. That is our schedule for next week. So, Monday, Signalis, Halloweeny time. Wednesday, Vampire the Masquerade Swan Song. Thursday, A Plague Tale Requiem. Friday, Steam Deck, put it through its paces. And Saturday, Resident Evil Director's Cut, continuing, finishing off Jill's story, and beginning Chris's. We'll probably get about halfway through Chris's, I think. And then weekly news recap on Sunday. So, that is both the weekly news for October 24th to the 30th of October. 24th to the 30th, 2022, and the channel update for the same week. Hopefully I will actually do some streaming tomorrow. I don't know. I don't know how to fix that. We'll see. The clocks went forward or backwards or something. I don't know. The clocks did something. Maybe that'll affect it in some way. I don't know. Why am I a slave to the moon and stars? It's weird. It's kind of poetic as well. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. Thanks for dropping in, Automaka. Appreciate the hugs and appreciate you hanging out in chat with me. It's always nice to see somebody responding in real time. That's kind of the whole point of why you do live streaming, right? Anyway, also, though, feel free to respond not in real time in the YouTube comments when this goes up on YouTube. Feel free to do that too. That's also appreciated. If you're looking for this on YouTube, it's over on youtube.com/doomtrain5. And if you're already on YouTube, this is recorded live over on Twitch at twitch.tv/doomtrain5. Either or both. Both. Yeah. Subscribe to both. Subscribe and follow and like and smash the bell and give me your Forspawn or something. I don't know. All right, I'm going to head off. Have a good rest of your day and see you guys tomorrow for Signalis. Bye-bye.